I remember my mother's first visit. I was like, don't laugh after 10. It's 10 o'clock. You can't laugh anymore because we're a loud family. And we're like, we need to stay. We need to stay here. We finally got our life, together. Like, let's just pull it
It
together.
cannot get kicked out of this place.
It cannot get kicked out.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean. Visit the website, thegermanyexperience.de, or email me. I love getting emails, info@thegermanyexperience.de. And you may have noticed that the podcast hasn't come out for the last 3 weeks. And I'm sorry, I really am. I've been trying to keep it regular. But there's just so much happening at this time of year. And this year is particularly difficult. So I've had a busy time, and yeah, the podcast just didn't have the time to get the podcast out on a weekly basis. And what I might do next year, I'm thinking about doing this, is switching to a fortnightly rhythm next year. So my question to you is, what do you think about one episode every 2 weeks? I'd love to know your opinion. And even if you think like maybe the podcast has run its course, then that it doesn't matter if it stops, I'd like to know that as well. Like maybe you want to hear something different or a different format. Any feedback that you've got for me, info@thegermanyexperience.de, or message me directly on one of my social media channels. You can find it all in the show notes below. And I will also say this, that my listeners are amazing, because every time I start feeling like the podcast is too much to carry on with, I just happen to get lovely messages of encouragement. And I got some of those in the last 3 weeks. I don't know how people knew that I needed to hear that, but I did. And these messages mean so much to me, and they actually keep me going when I'm feeling like maybe it's time to stop. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. So the other thing that I want to talk about, and I'm also a bit late with this, longtime listeners of the podcast will know that every year, Nicole and I do a charity drive with each other, and we try and raise money for some or other charity together through our listeners, who are always very generous. And usually we compete against each other and we have a bit of fun on social media. But this year we're working together. We've decided to join forces and make an uneasy alliance because we want to raise as much money as we can together for our chosen charity. And this year, the charity that we've chosen is an organization called Krisenchat. And they have a project that provides telephonic crisis service for young Ukrainians. You can read all the details about it. The link is in the show notes. Or you can go to thegermanyexperience.de/p/charity 2022. But it's probably easier just to click the link in the show notes. And there you'll read all about what the charity that we're supporting does. And we've set a goal for 500 euros that we want to collect. I've already donated. Nicole's already donated. And I want to say that someone has already donated 100 euros, which is incredible. It's incredible. Right now, we've collected a combined 160 euros. So we're well on the way to 500 euros. So hopefully we can hit that. And even better it would be if we completely blew past that 500 euros that we've set ourselves. And I'll be giving you updates every week. This is the Advent Charity Drive. You've got basically 3 more Advents left to do this, German Advents. Come on. We shut it down on the 24th of December, but yeah, we'd love to get your donations. All right, so on to my guest for this episode. It is Wafeeqa, and she is of Indian descent, but she was born and brought up in Saudi Arabia, and then she lived in Malaysia for a while before she moved with her husband to Bamberg with, by the way, 2 small twins. And she initially had difficulty finding a place to live. And then her husband got fired from his job. So they had a really, really rough start to their time in Germany. So we discussed that. And we also discussed how difficult it was for her to find a daycare option for her 2 young twins. We talk about house viewings in Germany. We talk about trying not to disturb neighbors. And also how she thought it would be much easier to learn German than it was. Take a listen. Here is Wafeeqa. How are you doing, Wafeeqa?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful, cold morning.
Yes, it is
in
getting
Germany,
a bit chilly.
yes.
Whereabouts in Germany are you?
I'm in the small city of Bamberg.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, 1 hour from Nuremberg, 2 hours from Munich. That's how you reach Bamberg, yeah.
And about 45 minutes away from me. So
yes.
we're kind of
Not too
close.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Bamberg is beautiful. It's one of my favorite cities that I've been to in Germany, actually.
It is very beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that we heard about Bamberg before we moved here.
Yeah,
And it
everyone
is
says it's
beautiful.
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, when we get tourist guests, we have two places that we take them. We either take them to Rottenburg up to Tauber, which is on west of us, and then if we go northeast of us, we take them to Bamberg, because it's like
I feel great.
The Innenstadt is really cool for tourists to see, and it's kind of like traditional German architecture, like everyone always pictures it, because there's a lot of Fachwerk, which is that wooden those wooden houses, or the wooden things in the houses, yeah.
Yes.
And then you've got the Rathaus, das altes Rathaus, or the old town
altes
hall.
Rathaus.
Yeah,
that was the only picture that we had of Bamberg in our mind before we moved here.
Okay.
And to be very honest, we stayed here for 3 years, and just this Sunday we went on the boat ride, which crosses the Altes Rathaus, and we're like, finally, we're on the Google picture. We made it after all this time.
Yeah, so I very much recommend Bamberg, but I'm interested in how or why you ended up in Bamberg. But I guess we'll get to that. Your story, you had a bit of a difficult time adjusting to life in Germany, and also you've got two young twins, so you had the added problems of finding a place for these kids to be during the day. You were looking after two young kids while going through this new integration into a new country and stuff. So we're going to get to your story. But first of all, tell us your background and why you're in Germany.
So I'll start from a background. I was born and brought up in Saudi Arabia. My whole family's still there. Close-knit family I have two siblings, parents, all working in Saudi. And I stayed there my whole life. And after that, I got married and I moved to Malaysia, where my husband was working. Okay, so we are both Indians.
Okay.
But we've been outside. So he was working in Malaysia. We stayed there for 6 years. I delivered my twins there. And when they were just growing, just a few months old, my husband got this amazing job offer from Germany.
What does he do?
So he's an architect, an IT architect. So he was working for the biggest bank in Malaysia, and we were we're moving to Germany, and we were right in the center, hustle bustle of KL, Kuala Lumpur, we were right there, and we were let's move to Germany. We're wanderers. We've traveled Southeast Asia. We're explorers, let's explore the other side of the world. So we checked, great place check, great education check, great healthcare check. So Germany, why not? So people came to us the language is difficult there. Well, it's just a language. My husband is Indian. He speaks 4 languages.
It's going to be no problem.
Yeah. Oh, don't talk about my language. I'm not getting there because my language skills are terrible. But yeah. And society. We're we've always lived outside our society. We've not really been in our homeland so much that, these people have just not traveled as much, they don't know what they're talking about.
Sure.
That's what we thought in our head, They were no, you know what? It's very difficult to, raise kids there. I said, why? There are no kids in Germany. I'm sure there are kids in Germany. Yeah. My kids will be just fine. They're 10 months. They'll be 10 when we reach. And we did Google stuff. Like I said, we did Google. Bamberg, the only picture was that. I'm wow, it's so beautiful and it's so quiet. There's so much water. And then they did talk about, about housing systems in Germany. You take 6 months. And I'm that's just exaggeration. They don't know where to look. They're looking at the wrong places. We're going there. We're going to do it. And we're going to be amazing at it. So we moved straight from KL. I left my job. He left his job. We were staying at the 44th floor at this apartment. We left that. And we came straight to Nuremberg, because obviously there's no airport in Bamberg. And we're not all cities have airports. Not a big deal.
Sure. Yeah.
So we drive around. We drive from Nuremberg. The guy doesn't stop. And we cross Bamberg, and we're where are we going? And you know what? We didn't find you an Airbnb in Bamberg.
Oh, no.
You had 6 months, You had 6 months to search. And they're no, sorry, we couldn't get it. Fine, it's okay. We like the peace and quiet. But the village that we reached, it was too much of peace and quiet.
How many people were living there? How small was it?
I'm not really sure about the numbers, but I think I've seen everybody there in the half month that I've stayed there.
Right.
I've seen everybody. Yeah, not big at all.
And
So
more or
we
less
were
how
like,
far away from Bamberg was it?
Bamberg, maybe about 40 minutes, but to his work, he works like an Airbus, so it was a bit more travel there. So about,
Okay.
50 minutes, yeah.
But you were way out of the city. I mean, or out
We
of
were way out of the city. We
yeah.
out of civilization, yeah. So there was just one supermarket in the area. That was it. And I think there was a park. I don't even know how far away.
Oh my god.
So it was, yeah. And I remember like the kids couldn't walk them because they were 10 months old, right? So I had this big, huge twin stroller that I would carry around places. And a lot of because it was a village, it was not very even slopes. Like there were
Mm.
a lot of uphill walks, and I was like, I can't walk uphill. But it had its perks. It had fresh air. It had the whole quietness. It was very beautiful. It was very scenic.
Mhm.
But yeah,
What time of the year did you move there? Like what season?
August.
Okay, so it was
August.
still nice weather at least. You moved there when it was good weather.
It was very nice weather, but it was also very long days, which I did not
Mm.
realize. Because 8 o'clock, like we went to bed, I remember, because we were jet lagged, and he had to leave work at 8:30 a.m. with our neighbor. She was taking him to work, and so we were like, okay, we go to bed, and we slept. I think around 6 because we were jet lagged.
Yeah.
And I get up, and I'm like 8:10. Get up, like just go. And he took a shower, and he comes out, and that's when we realized that it's 8:10 in the evening because of the
Because it was
daylight
still light
outside.
outside.
It was still light outside. I'm like, what is happening here? I mean, it was crazy.
You thought it was 8:10 the next morning. Meanwhile, you
We
guys had
thought it
slept
was
for 2 hours.
yes. So we slept for 2 hours, and he's like, "Don't wake me up before you check." And then we changed all the clocks to the 24-hour format, which
Right.
we
Yes.
hadn't done before. Yeah, and we were like, "Okay, let's just start. Let's just like move on with it." So it was a lot of new things. It
Yeah.
was the whole day was different, literally.
Yeah. So he was in a new job, but you were in an Airbnb. How long was that supposed to be the plan that you would stay in that Airbnb?
So the plan was supposed to be for 2 months because so the contract, like his job contract, did state that they would help us search for an apartment. So since they couldn't get it, so they just had like this temporary thing for 2 months. Which, so this lady also wasn't very open to giving it out to. She would just give it out to like singles or couples
Mm.
because this was a huge house. To be very honest, we stayed in the basement, which had its perks because you're okay, like the kids are okay, it's not too
Yeah.
loud for them.
Yeah.
But the downside was that it would be wet, there would be a little bugs because of the time of the year that we moved in.
Right.
And we're like, it's okay, let's just she wasn't used to a lot of people, like, so we didn't realize that part of it. So she stayed in a big house all alone, and she would give out her place for rent to just couples like without or older kids. But since she knew the person who was searching for a house personally, she was like, you know what, fine, it's okay, kind of
Right.
a thing. So it was also an experiment for her, which we didn't know. Like, she seems quite nice, like. But I remember this evening, she comes and we're like just talking, and she's like, I got up at 5 a.m. in the morning today, and I'm like, oh, that's like pretty early. She's like, yeah, your kids cried, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
You were like, that's funny. I also got up at 5 a.m. this
Yeah,
morning.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, is this new? Is this not supposed to happen? Like, your kids cried. I'm like, I'm sorry.
So
And
was she complaining?
she's complaining. She already that was day 3. That should
Oh
have
my
been a
God.
red flag, which I didn't see. And I'm like, it's fine. And to be very honest, even the commute, like, if he drove, like if he went with a neighbor, it would take like about 40 minutes to work. But if he had to go take the public transport,
Mm.
he would actually have to walk for 10 minutes to the train station, then take 2 buses. So it was like a whole journey around the world to
Yeah.
work and back. So, but then we were like, let's get on with it, kind of a thing, like, because
Right.
this is what we have right now. Let's not crib. Let's not start off complaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but then again, I think the end of the week, she was like, it's a little too much for me. The
Okay.
kids, they have a nice backyard. The kids are playing in the backyard, so it disturbs my afternoons. It disturbs my quiet afternoons.
Oh my gosh.
So I can't really do this. Is it
And how old are your
possible
kids
for you
at the
to
time?
move
You
on?
said
10
that they were
months.
10 months old. Like, what are you
10
supposed
months
to do?
old.
You
What are you supposed to do?
tell a
Yeah.
10-month-old to be quiet or to
You
take it easy.
cannot. And
No.
I cannot like restrict their playing. I cannot restrict their crying.
No,
It's like
sure.
they're growing. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just exploring. They were just crawling. They were not even walking. So they do like have these toys with music and stuff. And I'm like,
Sure.
okay, put it away. I did do that. I like put a lot of stuff of there away so that they just play with the soft toys
Yeah.
or they just like play
But
during
even then,
certain hours.
yeah.
But even then, it doesn't work like that. And we would want to go out a lot more, but because of the time, we did have rains. I remember we had a lot of rain, so it wasn't like every day that we could go out.
Mm.
So the kids needed to spend that energy somewhere,
Sure.
and they
Yeah.
did, and they were still like jet lagged. And even as normal 10 month olds, I don't think sleep through the night yet.
Right.
So so I remember it used to get hot, but we couldn't open the windows because I was scared she would get
Yeah.
upset. But that still happened, and she was like, "You know what? 2 weeks and you're out."
She
And we
kicked
were
you
like,
out.
"Where are we going?" She kicked us out. We were homeless 2 weeks in,
How did she
and we
break
were
the news
like,
to you?
"Where
Did
are
she
we
come
going?"
down and say that that's it? Was she angry or was she pretty calm about it?
So this is very funny. It's like how you break up over a text. She sent me a text.
No way. She sent
She's
you a
like, "You know
text.
what? Yeah." She's like, "It's getting. I'm not used to this. Could you please like search for another apartment?" And we're like, "Really new. We have no idea. We've not even gone to Bamberg. Like we did start our search online, but it wasn't a very hardcore search because we were busy adjusting to
Settling
stuff.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, there were like a lot of things to do. So we were like, you know what, forget it. We didn't like want to even ask her again. We were like, you know what, okay. So she did give us an extra week and we're like, we're moving out. So I started and I was like, we traveled like we're like real travelers, me and my husband backpackers. So we like search for places on the go. So I was like, I've left it out to other people for far too long. I'm going to take it upon myself.
Right.
I'm going to search. It's like not so difficult. And I couldn't get anything. I couldn't
Okay.
get an Airbnb in Bamberg. And then finally, we get this place for 1 week at another place. And I'm like, okay, as long as we're out of here, then we'll
Yeah.
figure out our next move,
But hang
So,
on. So but his, I guess your husband's company arranged the first the
yes,
first apartment,
yes,
right? But they didn't
exactly.
help you with anything moving forward.
So they did say, so that was the thing. They did say that we're trying, but they
Right.
weren't getting anything,
I see. I see. And that's when
There
you
was this
decided to meet
one
you.
place. Exactly. There was one place I remember they were like, you can stay here for as long as you like. But this was like this huge mansion in this old part of Bamberg. And it was like, I was like, I'm not staying there alone with the kids for the whole day because it was
Really?
pretty scary. And the guy was like, you know what, take it. And I'm like, there's something suspicious. If he's like so ready to give it away,
Yes. Like
I'm
what's
like, I'm
going
not
on here?
taking it. Yeah, so the office people were like, you know what's happening? We're not able to get anything like suitable for y'all, so y'all can try. So I was like, I'm taking it up, and we got this. And this lady was amazing, the Airbnb, but she was only free for a week.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's okay, let's just move. So we took this whole, all our luggage and
Oh
everything
no.
from one house. We actually sat in the loaded truck and we moved to another. It was also not in Bamberg, it was a little away from Bamberg. So we moved there. And again, another basement. She was an older lady. So I thought she was much older. So I was like, oh, this is going to be even more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But turns out she was quite much, much nicer than the previous one. Yeah.
Right.
And along with all this, started our house hunting, which was like, I remember when we wanted to shift house in Kuala Lumpur, we actually went, we checked online, we saw this place, we went on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, sealed,
Hmm.
everything done. And 1 week later, we moved in. That was it. In my house in Saudi Arabia, we've been staying there for how many? My parents have been staying for about 30, 35 years. It's a rented apartment. We've not moved. All of us grew up there. All of us are still there, going back there. That's still home. So I was like, maybe Airbnbs are difficult because it's not a very touristy place, but I'm sure like rentals should be easier. And we went to our first house visit. And it wasn't, we were 10 minutes early because you know how Germans are supposed to be very strict about time.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not missing it. We're going to be perfect. We're doing it the right way. And we go and we're waiting. And then we see this huge group of people. My husband's like, I think they've come to visit the house. And I'm like, no, I think they've just come for a party or something in the same building. And then we walk in and we realize all these people, the group of like about 15, 20 people, have come to see this 3-bedroom house.
Yeah.
And I actually looked at my husband and said, are we like house hunting or is this like a museum visit? Like, are we going to get headphones? Are we going to get headphones with your own language explaining this is what happens here? And this is like, what is happening here?
I know. It's
I mean,
crazy.
was crazy.
We had a similar experience, my wife and I, when we were looking for a place to move in Würzburg. We went in there, and of course, we were the only ones that couldn't speak German. All the others are Germans and stuff, but there were about 15 to 20 people just roaming around the apartment. And this was a small apartment, and I was like, "This is impossible. We're never going to get in here." And then you identify who the agent is that's trying to rent it out, and then you speak to them, and then you realize, "Wow, my God, how are we ever going to get this? This is just insane!" And everyone's just coming in and out, coming in and out the whole time.
Yeah. I'm like, what is happening here? It's just like so many people, like at the same time. Imagine, like, and that was the only appointment I could get in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't even know how many appointments they've given out,
Yeah.
Like this is worse than I've even read online.
Were you thinking at this point that you're just not going to find a place to live in Germany?
I was like, I actually was like, I think we just have to stay off Airbnbs, which are a place. Like, I remember searching like 2 hours away, 1 hour away, like whatever, like just give us a house. I remember this agent called us up and they were like, you need a 5-bedroom house. And my husband was like, I don't mind, like, whatever you have. So like, no, we don't have it right now. We just have 4 3-bedroom houses. Well, we can't give it to you because children grow like mushrooms. The children are going to grow very fast. And I'm like, I'll take care of my mushrooms. You just give me a house.
Don't worry. Don't you worry about my mushrooms.
Don't worry. Exactly. She actually said that. And my husband, like, he just looked at me and he's like, I don't know if I should laugh or should be angry at this point, because it's all like, I'm stuck in a movie.
Yeah, that is bizarre. Grow like mushrooms.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was the limit of English that she could speak. And her comparison was, but it stuck to us, Like, I don't know where I'm going to find a place for my mushrooms. Like, and so that was crazy. But so about 1.5 months, 3 Airbnbs with all the stuff, like our 6 years of stuff from Malaysia. And 2 kids, and to be then we had to actually pack a lot of things back, and we just had basics outside. So it was just like basics were like diapers, Cerelac, food for the kids, because again we were staying in these villages where we weren't really getting the things that we're used to. For the kids we could adapt, but for the kids it was completely new.
Sure.
So we had to actually like live off like out of our suitcases, literally, like not even suitcases, actually handbags, for like 1.5, 2 months.
And that's terrible because you don't know when you're going to find something. You don't know if you're going to find something, and it must be such an unsettling feeling. Trying to settle into a new country, but like you don't have a permanent living agreement.
You don't have and at this point, I was still working for my Malaysia company, so I remember like getting up at during the night, because I would work at night because I didn't have time during the day with all the moving, packing, unpacking kids. It was crazy. So finally, we found our house. Beautiful backyard, beautiful neighborhood. And, it was very random. So my husband was on the bus from work to home, and he loves to talk to people. He's a talker.
Okay.
So he just started talking to this random person, and she turned out to be a student from India who was also staying in this place. And she's like, you know what? I'm moving out of my dorm. You can move into the house. And they were like a group of 3, 4 or 5 people.
Right.
So that's how we understood that it actually works on recommendation. It doesn't matter 20, 25 people go to your houses. It comes down to references or recommendations, that is how we got our first recommendation. Because we didn't really know people. And the people in his company, I think there were just 5 of them, and they were like here for like ever. So they didn't really have houses to rent out. So that was how we moved into our first house, and we were like, finally.
So that means it was you and then several other people. It was kind of a Wohngemeinschaft?
No. Like the entire group moved out.
Oh, I see. I see. And then she recommended you to the landlord.
Yes.
Yeah, you see, that is the thing. Like but it's very difficult to get to the point where someone can give you a recommendation like that.
Yeah.
So it's just, you've got to have a bit of luck, I guess, in the whole process as well.
Yeah, a lot of luck.
Okay, so that was your first place. How long did you stay in your first place for?
Oh, we're still there.
Oh, you're still there?
We're still there, yes.
Okay.
I love the place here, because it's a great area. We have like parks everywhere. We have a nice backyard, the football fields, everything. The swimming pool. So like we're still here.
And is it
And
closest to Bamberg?
it is in Bamberg, yeah. It is
It's
in
in
Bamberg.
Bamberg.
It's in
Okay.
Bamberg. So
Well, that's
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So yeah. So that was our house story. In fact, we also had like a mini trip to Saudi Arabia, me and the kids, because we weren't really like absolutely unable to find anything.
Yeah.
So we did go like for 3 weeks to Saudi, so that the kids at least have a sense of stability.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
because it was too much for them, like at that point, and we were like, we did their first birthday there, and then we were back
Mm.
to our new house. So
Did
that
you
was exciting.
did you ever consider when you were back in Saudi Arabia thinking, let's just stay here, let's not go back?
Okay, so that I can be very biased because every time I go there, that's how I feel. But
Ah.
uh, yeah, but then I was like, oh, let's not like leave so soon. Let's give it a try. It's just a house. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like when you stay there, when you're in it, you see that you're not the only one, and there are people
Yeah.
finding to face it. Let's not run away. Let's like see what. I mean, for how long can you not have a house for? So we would have to keep those positive thoughts going, otherwise
Yeah.
we would drown. So we had to keep swimming. The first 3 months with that whirlwind.
Wow. I mean, I often hear about how difficult the apartment search and the house search is in places like Berlin and Munich. But one automatically assumes that when you get to the smaller cities like Bamberg and whatever else, that it'll be a bit easier. But it's actually not. It's just as tough in those smaller
It's
cities
just
as it
as
is in
yeah.
the big.
In
Yeah,
fact, in the smaller cities, there's no moving out crowd. Like everybody's just there forever. They just like settle down.
that's
At
true.
least in Berlin and stuff, people move around. So
Yes,
they
there's
do
a bit
give
of a
out
chance.
houses. Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Um, so that was the house situation sorted out, and so I guess everything is plain sailing from there, right?
Oh, of course, everything was
That's how
amazing.
these things go. They go perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. What
So
did you had some further challenges in your first year,
yes,
didn't you?
we did. Yeah. So first, so the house again, like to be very honest, we were very scared. Oh, what will the neighbors say? Not. I remember my mother's first visit. I was like, "Don't laugh after 10. It's 10 o'clock. You can't laugh anymore because we're a loud family." And we're like, "We need to stay. We need to stay here. We finally got our life, together. Like, let's
Yeah,
just
I do.
pull it
It
together,
cannot
kind of
get
a
kicked
thing."
out of this
It
place.
cannot get out, kicked out. So she's like, "Oh, my daughter didn't allow me to laugh. Kids, don't make noise after this time. Okay, don't turn on the washing machine. I don't care what laundry we have,
But
So
that's
we
no
did
way to live
try.
as well. Like it's a bit
Yeah,
paranoid, right? You start feeling
yeah,
a bit paranoid, and you're always thinking like,
we did.
is someone going to hear us? Is someone going to hear us?
Exactly.
Mm.
And then it took a few months, like another 2 months for us to like really settle in and feel like, okay, now things are okay.
Mm.
Now let's just breathe. And it was my husband's first birthday in Germany. So it was just the four of us because we didn't really have a lot of family friends. Germans don't really socialize that much.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's just have a nice little celebration at home. And he goes to work, and the previous day of his birthday, to be very honest, goes to work, and it's all like everybody's like, oh, you know what, you're gonna get a cake tomorrow. They were like teasing him about it. They had a little get together at work, and they had dinner, and he was back home the next morning. I had baked the cake, and he's like, I'm taking this cake for my colleagues. Like, sure, go ahead. And he starts work at around 8:30. So around 9:30, he calls me and he's like, so I'm fired.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, what is happening here? And he's like, no, apparently I didn't drink during their socializing meetup.
The day
So they
before.
don't, the day before, yeah. And even like, so it was like, they're like, oh, we don't see you really fitting into it. So it's going to be difficult to, continue kind of a thing.
Wow.
And
So
I'm like,
so
you
he
didn't, I
was
mean,
he
yeah,
was still in his Probezeit, right? So let me get this
yes,
straight. He was still in his Probezeit. The day before his birthday,
yes.
they had a social event. He didn't drink at the social event, and then the day after that, they were telling him it's not a cultural fit that for
Yes.
him in the company. It was a small startup or a bigger
It was a
company?
very small startup. They were
Yeah,
only Germans, yeah.
yeah.
And this was also kind of experiment for them, getting somebody from the other side of the
Oh
world.
my god.
But then the whole point is if you're getting somebody from the other side of the world, you have to expect a new culture.
Yeah.
You can't expect the guy to like dive in or whatever.
No.
Like, have to have his own personal preferences. Respect that. That's how you know diversity.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about diversity now.
Yeah.
But no, so they were like, no, you don't really fit into the culture, so you can't really we don't see. I mean, your work is amazing. They even said that your work is amazing because Asians do have the tendency to overwork and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like try
Yeah.
to do their best. And he knew like he had to, because he's come here all the way. He wanted to do his best, kind of a thing. So they didn't have any complaints about that. But then it was the more of the fit, the cultural, societal fit
My God.
that they had a problem with. And my first reaction was like, "Don't give them that cake. Bring it home.
You keep
I
that
don't care."
cake, you bring it home. They do not get a piece of that cake.
Exactly. Tell them there's no drinks in the cake. So sorry,
I love it.
they're
I
not
love it
having
that you
it.
tell him. I love it that that's what you tell him. He just tells you get fired. He's gotten fired. You're like, you do not give them that cake.
Yeah. And then he's like, I don't know what to do. And to be very honest, like, yes, the prop side is something which is known, but because it was a startup and we didn't really know about it, to be very honest, it was not mentioned in his contract. There was nothing. Imagine leaving an entire life and coming here with
Yeah.
two kids, like,
Yeah.
and then the first day we're like, you know what? Let's just not focus on that. Let's just like focus on getting something now.
Yeah.
And we're just like 6 months in. Language is not our strongest suit. We haven't really adapted so well. We don't know a lot of people because he was working all the time, and we were like, oh, this whole settling in with the kids stuff. So all he needed was like, we really were like, you know what, focus on what you have, that is your knowledge and your experience, and
Yeah.
that's how we're going into the next phase, right?
Yeah.
And by now we had already, since I told you, like, we liked Bamberg, we liked the house, and I was like, no, I don't want to move now.
Yeah. We've
And
just
just
gotten
finally, and
settled.
just got and settled. I don't want to move. Like, so the thing was to find a place in Bamberg,
Right.
where obviously we don't have a lot of more opportunities, but by God's grace and prayers, everybody's prayers, we did move on, and we did get another, like, he got an amazing job in Bamberg.
Okay.
Again,
How long
another
did that
startup.
take?
Uh, but I think he got his first interview in about a week of being removed. Yeah, he was
Okay.
still under that the previous company because
Right.
obviously they can't remove him like that.
Yeah.
And then I think about 3 weeks after that,
Right.
so he
Wow.
joined
So it
his
was pretty
first.
quick,
Yeah.
thank goodness.
So it's pretty. And in between, so my favorite aunt from, she had flown in and she was supposed to meet us in Switzerland. And we had like this whole thing idea, like we're going to go and have fun and all of that. And
Yeah.
this happened. Okay, this happened on a Friday, and that was the weekend we're supposed to go. And then we were like, what do we do? Do we go? Because we're like stressed. And I'm like, we're going to be stressed at home. Let's be stressed in Switzerland. And we just
You were
had
like, we're going to be stressing somewhere. Let's go make it
yeah,
somewhere else.
let's just go make it somewhere else. So we
Yeah.
didn't have the little trip around. So yeah, so then he did get, and then okay, finally got his job. Okay, breathe.
Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
let's just like start over. It's fine. It's a fresh start. We're not quitters. We're not running back. We're staying strong. And then comes Corona.
Oh my God. I forgot about the Corona part of the
No,
story.
we cannot, because we started. I registered for like a German class, and where I could take my kids along,
Yeah.
and I registered for volunteering at a cafe nearby for old age people, and we're like, oh wow, everything's going
Mm.
great, and then comes the cherry on top. Yeah, Corona.
So that just threw a spanner of the way. But your husband was able to keep his job
Yes, he
during that
was.
time. So
He
that is
was.
at
Yeah.
least a good thing. I mean, that could have
Yeah.
been
In
a
fact,
game changer.
his company did have like a lot of hurdles, but because I think of his experience and of his knowledge, they did want to retain him. So he was one of the very few people who were retained, to be very honest.
Wow, what a story to get to get settled in the country. I mean, that is something I think a lot of people would have given up at some point during that thing.
Yeah,
And
there were a lot of times, to be very honest, that we did think of giving up.
yeah,
We did have like our residency back in Malaysia. We were like, let's just go back to it. We
Yeah.
did have my family back in Saudi. We were like, let's just go back. At least we'll have like, we wouldn't have to struggle so much. But the whole idea of coming to Germany was like the overall development, like for the kids, especially for the healthcare, for the education, for like the access, global access to the world, to this side of the world. And we were like, uh, I think every time a person moves, like, they do find difficulties. But when you're moving alone, maybe it's not as significant as
Definitely.
it is when you're moving with a family. So, but we did not want to see the family as like an addition, like an obstacle. So we're like, you know what? Like, as long as we're together and we're getting through it, I think that is what we need at that
Yeah.
point of time, you know. So it
Yeah.
did take a lot of prayers. We did have a lot of down days to get to the up days and to get,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
So it wasn't very smooth sailing. It was not very funny. Like now I'm laughing about it, but
Yeah,
at
now
that
you can
point,
laugh
no.
about it.
Yeah, now I can
No,
laugh
but at the
about it.
time, I can imagine that must have been devastating. And I can't believe, I mean, they did it on his birthday, right?
Yeah, it
They
was
did
his
it on
birthday.
his birthday, fired.
Birthday.
They
Yeah,
told, I mean, if you're going to tell someone they didn't make the probate site, don't
exactly.
do it on their birthday,
Don't do
for
it on
God's
birthday.
sake.
And it's like you're talking about the birthday the previous day. So it's not like they
They
don't
knew
know
it was
or they're not
coming.
exactly.
Oh my, like, I just cannot believe that. I
And then
think
there
that
were a lot
is,
of red flags, like this whole housing thing, this whole situation where
yeah,
they were not
yeah.
helping him, which
And
we chose to like, you know what, it happens. It's a small company. Let's not put that kind of pressure on them.
right.
So that was
But
our take on things.
But you're right. Like looking back at it now, there were a lot of red flags, and the best thing that could have happened to your husband was that
Yeah,
they kicked him out, because that would never have been a good fit. At some point, there was going to
exactly.
be an issue.
Yeah.
Wow, that is insane. So, so then you were stuck at home, all four of you, but obviously he could work from home, I assume, and
Yeah,
and
he was
then
working
and
from
then
home.
you got through the corona, the corona side,
Mhm.
which is a whole story on its own. But now, what about your career? Like you must have had a career back when you were in
I was,
Malaysia.
yes. I was doing like, I was pretty, like, I was very happy with my career in Malaysia. And that was one of the first things that did come to my mind, to be very honest, when I was moving. And I was like, but I've had so many years of experience and good experience
Mm,
where I grew very quickly. I grew in a very diverse set of team. And I was kind of like the manager for the team and all of that, where I started from very small positions. I was like, it's not that difficult to, get another job. I was pretty confident at that time. My
yes.
confidence was at another level. My confidence was at another level. So I was like, but then I also knew, because I had already started working from home much before Corona, because of the kids. Like, because of the trust the company had in me when I delivered. I had only 3 months of maternity break, and I
Yeah.
went to work straight after that. So I did start working from home. So I knew I could, like in my head, I knew I could manage both, because that was what I have been doing. But when I decided to take a break from work was because the kids were growing, and it
Yeah.
wasn't, like I said, so many things were happening. Like, and I thought I needed to be my best self for my kids. Like, I needed to be there for them because it was a new place. We did not have people like I could trust, or like, starting over at that point, I needed my husband to have his 100% focus. So I
Yeah.
decided, you know what, let's just take a back seat. I can go back to work whenever I'm ready, or whenever like things are really
Yeah.
ready, because I don't want to give half and half.
Right.
If I'm doing something, I want to give like my 100%. And like I said, I already started, I registered for German course. So I was like, let's learn the language. But all this went out the window when Corona came because of the classes, and it was more difficult to actually meet people. Because
Mm,
for me, the only way to learn a language is by talking to people, and
yeah.
there weren't people to talk to. So, but then what I realized during this course was that in Germany, or even in this, like I think in the Western side of the world, you do get like a 1 year, 2 year, or even 3 year maternity break,
Yeah.
after which your job is secure. So you don't have to do anything in those 3 years except be a mother,
Hmm.
and then go back to your job, which is very safely, like your laptop is handed back to you. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So I did not see that. I overlooked that part of it because I had a gap.
Mm,
People they don't consider it as a gap because you're on maternity leave. So
yeah.
even though I had so many years of experience, the gap was a major obstacle. Like
Right.
to actually tell people, like, I'm here, I can do it, was is like a struggle
Yeah.
for them to actually believe. And even like in this era of work from home, now everybody's working from home. They still prefer people who've had years of experience, or who are currently working, or who worked in the German market, which I
Mm,
haven't,
mm,
right? So I've worked in the Southeast Asia market. So that difference is proving to be an obstacle for me. So, but yeah, but I wouldn't like, as I'm looking for jobs, I just believe that it's out right there and it's waiting for me, and I'll get it someday. Yeah,
yeah. So you're actively looking at the moment.
I am, yeah. But it's been like, so it's not been like a boring life. We've got like so many things going on, so I've not really missed anything. So yeah.
Yeah.
I've had life experiences, even if it's not like professional experience. I've had a lot of life experiences, which I haven't had in the past so many years
Yeah.
that I've had in the last 3 years,
Yeah. And then it's something that you can explain for like in job interviews as well. Like I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
but I understand that it is difficult to explain that gap to people. They may not understand because, like you said, in Germany, it's oh, you were in Eltern okay, we
yeah.
understand what that was. But if there's no Eltern like what were you doing for the 3 years? You just weren't
Mm,
working. So I see your point there. Well, I wish you luck with the job search. What would happen
thank
with the
you.
kids then if you started working? Let's say you got a
Oh,
full
they're
time job.
already in the kindergarten. So they've
Okay, they're in a kindergarten.
yeah. So once they joined the kindergarten, that's when I started looking for job. Because before
Mm,
that, yeah, to be very honest, I did try to look for jobs before that, but my main focus was to make sure my kids are safe and healthy. Yeah.
of course.
So we
Yeah.
did try to get this thing called Tagesmutter because daycare was not an option. House hunting is difficult,
Mm-hmm.
job hunting is difficult, but daycare hunting is like another planet's
Next
level
level.
of difficulty. Yes. Like
Yeah.
this was another thing which I thought was exaggerated that people start looking for kindergartens when they're pregnant.
Yeah.
They register. Oh, I've registered my kid. How old is your kid? Oh, I'm 7 months pregnant.
Yeah.
That was the conversation, like
We did that as well, which was surprising to me when we had our first kid. Yeah, we
Yeah,
registered them when my wife was just pregnant, and you're thinking, but this is insane. Like I don't even know if I'm going to be
insane.
living in the same place in 3 years'
Exactly.
time when the
No,
kid's going to
and when
start.
I'm pregnant, I didn't even buy them clothes. Like, forget
Yeah.
registering them in the whole school. Like, I didn't do anything till they delivered.
Yeah.
And so it was, and then we did like have, so people told us daycare is impossible, but you can find Tagesmutters. So, 2, 3 Tagesmutters that we got, we're not ready to take the kids because we're not Germans. And
And
we're
they
like, but
told you this.
yeah, they told us this. Like, everything's great. We do have a space, but y'all don't speak German and you're not from here. You've just come, so I don't think we can take you on. And we're like, but
Yeah.
the reason that we want to send our kids to you is so that they learn the language early on.
Absolutely.
That
That's
was
so
the main
stupid.
reason, the main idea behind it. So they were like, no, you know what? So we didn't really have like an option for the kids as well.
Mm. Mm.
And then I was like, you know what? I wanted to be there then for them. I didn't want, to just like. So I did wait for them, and and we applied for I think about 10 kindergartens, and every day, every time we would be on the waiting list, and finally a no.
Yeah.
And I would keep messaging like in crazy, like in German, in English, like everything, call them up. And I'm like, because I think the main idea was not for like me to just get rid of them. It does sound like that, but it was more about them having more people to talk around, having to
Very sure.
integrate into the society.
They
That
need that
helps with
social
the over.
contact.
They're
Yeah.
twins, they have each other, but they need more than each other.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
need friends, and it's not like you go to the parks, you don't find a lot of people out because they're like in daycares or there's
Yeah.
nobody there in the mornings. We would go to park twice a day,
Yeah.
so we would be very outdoorsy, me and the kids. But that wasn't enough for them. Like I
Mm.
felt like they needed to speak. They
Yes.
even started talking after we went to Saudi because they were not like it was just us here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like in the initial
Yeah.
few years, especially due to Corona, it wasn't a lot of interaction, and that was what I needed, what I craved for my children. And finally, we got this kindergarten, and they were like, they completely German speaking, which I was like amazed. Like I was fine. I was totally okay with it because
Yeah.
that's what I wanted,
Yeah.
right? So they started, and when they settled in, I was like, you know what? Now they're okay. Now I have the day for myself, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I started doing my stuff, like trying to doing my volunteering, doing my freelancing stuff, and that's how I slowly transitioned back into this
Yeah.
world here. So
Yeah.
to balance out both of it,
Yeah,
it
it's a
worked.
good. I think it's a good situation for everyone. The kids are getting social contact; they're learning German, and
Exactly.
then you've got time to start focusing on yourself, like you said, and
Myself, yeah.
getting back to finding your way in Germany.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, so that has been quite
yeah.
quite a journey.
What a story, Wafeeqa. And I'd love to talk to you in 2 years or something, and find
That
out
would be amazing. Yeah.
what's going on, how you've settled in, and where you're at. But yeah, it's really, really. Uh, Tough times, and like I said, I think a lot of people would have turned around and given up at some point. And that's something that amazes me about a lot of foreigners coming to this country, is that the resilience that they show in getting to a point is quite amazing. And sometimes and it's always difficult for me to know, like, at what point do you give up? Because there must be a point as well where it's actually too much for you. And there is a point where it's okay to give up. It's fine to give up. But also sometimes it's just a case of pushing through a little bit further, and then you get to the other side of all of those obstacles.
So I think the idea of pushing through, there were a lot of points where we thought we would give up. Like there are even times now that we go out and we feel like a little out of place. We're like, you know what? But then we pushed through in the beginning was because the kids were small. That we saw as a positive instead of a negative, because we were like, once they grow up, then it gets more difficult for them to adjust. Yeah.
Definitely.
Here we're doing the adjusting for them. We can try and make it okay for them as much as we can. But once they grow up, then it gets harder for them, like as hard as for us. So that was one motivation for us, that they were still young. We still had that opportunity to take the chances, right? And that's why we just a bit more, and we pushed through to the point that now we're like in a like quite a peaceful, like mind stabilized kind of situation right now. Yeah. So the other thing that I like about Germany, and the reason that we're still here, is also, I think, because of the family values. You know how they say that it's very difficult to get into the German society? It's because their society is that strong. And that kind of translates into us, like, the family bonding that we've had. We've always been a close-knit family.
Yeah.
But here also, I see the German families are pretty close-knit. And that's a very beautiful thing to actually like appreciate and learn from. Because in my head, I was like, oh, the kids grow up and they're like out of the door kind of a thing. And that's not how it is. No. It's like how we are, like me and my family, I'm like just a kid right there. And that's exactly how it is here. Yeah. So also, I think the importance that family comes first kind of thing. Yes. Work, health, schools, everything comes secondary to family. So I think that is a very beautiful and amazing principle that the Germans do follow.
Yes, something that I love about Germany as well. And I like, even I live out here in the country, and you see it a lot in the villages, is that they have these Mehrfamilienhäuser, and the whole family actually lives together. So it's like the grandparents are there, the brothers and sisters are living on maybe the top floor with their families and stuff, and everyone's together. It's maybe not so much in the cities, but even in the cities, the families are all living close to each other. And like you said, that work-life balance where people respect that work ends at a certain time, and then you go home to your family, and that's your family time, and that's your free time and stuff like that. So it's something that I love about Germany too. Very nice to talk to you, Wafeeqa. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story. And like I said, I'm going to catch up with you in 2 years, and we'll see where you're
see
at.
Where we are. Yeah, that's amazing.
I wish your family all the best moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget the charity challenge. Donate money for Krisenchat, providing a service for young Ukrainians to get crisis guidance and help. I'll talk to you next week. Auf Wiederhören.